What are the best income products for retirees? As you know, I intend to invest in dividend stocks for my retirement, but I get that this could be a lot more complicated for a lot of retirees. Maybe you don't want to spend hours looking to financial statements. Maybe you don't have that interest and you would like to have something a lot more simple. And simple is beautiful, especially at retirement. So you can actually enjoy your retirement and let the professional do their things. So today we're going to look at 3 simple ways to invest your money into 3 different types of products. We're going to talk about their pros, their cons, and also the common mistakes retirees make when they invest in those products. So let's get started with the target date funds, the TDFs. Those could be funds or basket of ETFs. They are made by most of the financial firms such as BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, and so on. The idea is simple. You want to retire in 2030. That's your target date. So before 2030, that fund allocation will focus a little bit more on generating growth. So a little bit more invested on the equity part. And once you get the 2030 target date, the portfolio will automatically change their asset allocation, going from equity to bonds with a focus on capital preservation and income generation. So on the pro side, well, this is the classic set it and forget it solution. You don't have to do much. Once you have set your target date, you invest your money into the fund and then you let it ride. It's professionally managed. You don't have to do anything. That's great. The second thing is automatically your asset allocation will focus on capital preservation. So you don't have to worry about the fact that you're too invested in the stock market. You actually be on the conservative side, on the safe side, so you can enjoy your retirement. The third one is probably like the best thing is it simplifies portfolio management at retirement. So think about your spouse. Maybe you are interested in investing, but maybe your spouse is not or has like no knowledge whatsoever. So having the target date fund will solve the problem for everyone. You just invest in that and just you let it go. Unfortunately, nothing is perfect on the disadvantage side. While the first one is you have limited customization. If you want to invest in specific stocks or specific markets, it's not going to happen with a target fund. It will be focused on one size fits all investment strategy. The second problem with TDFs is the higher fees. Of course, for simplicity, you have to pay for it, especially when you're looking at mutual funds that has a target date. The MERs, the management fees, could go up to as high as 2%. So just review that very carefully. Finally, the last disadvantage I found is sometimes it could turn into being too conservative too early. As you know, if you're 65 today, chances are you're going to live another 20 to 30 years. So if you're going into fixed income too much at an early stage of your retirement, maybe you're not going to be able to generate enough returns to not outlive your portfolio. The common mistakes that we find when you invest in a target date fund, well, the first one is do not think that because there's a target date that the funds are guaranteed. It's still invested in the stock market. You have like an allocation between stocks and bonds. So nothing is guaranteed is like any other investment products. The second mistake that you can make is to select the wrong date. So imagine that you want to invest for a target date of 2030, and then you realize that you're fed up with your job and you retire in 2027. Well, then you're not going to be exactly following the right step. You'll probably have to sell the previous fund and buy another one with the right target date, which could incur some fees. And finally, speaking of fees, the most common mistake that we find into the TDFs is investors not looking into fees. Some of them are lower fees focused on ETFs, but some others are mutual funds companies that will charge you 2%, roughly 2% MERs. The second income product I want to talk about are annuities. I know annuities, they're sold by life insurance agent. You might feel uncomfortable with them, but bear with me a second. It may be more interesting than you think. So first, what's an annuity? Well, you write a big check and then in exchange, the life insurance company will guarantee you a monthly income, which is quite interesting, right? So among the pros, well, of course, guaranteed income. So it gives you the peace of mind. So you can combine your annuity plus CPP plus OAS, and then you have a solid base of retirement income that will last until your last breath. The second thing is it is also part of a risk transfer. So instead of being worried about market risk and market fluctuation, the annuity take that out of the equation. It will pay you a fixed amount every single month, and you don't have to worry about what's going on with tariffs, commercial wars, or a recession. Finally, what I really like about annuities is that it replicates your paycheck. So once you retire, you kind of lose this comfort of receiving a paycheck from your job, but you can actually recreate it entirely using an annuity. Again, nothing is perfect. So on the cons, well, you're going to find that if you buy an annuity, it's irrevocable. Meaning that if you put too much money into the annuity, you're not able to withdraw that money back. So don't go run after making a check of like $500,000 to receive an annuity income, because therefore you could lack of capital at one point. The second cons is if you do not have any options, you will not be covered for inflation. So receiving $20,000 this year is great. $20,000 in 15 years may not be covering all your retirement budget. Finally, when we are in a low interest rate environment, similar as what we have right now in Canada, it will also reduce the payment of the annuity. So that is also a problem. It's best to buy an annuity when interest rates are higher, such as like 2 years ago. Finally, the common mistakes. Well, the first one is definitely in the desire of transferring a lot of risk into the annuity. You will buy a large annuity. So investing too much in those will limit your capital, will also limit the amount of money that you can withdraw every month. So that is a big mistake. The second one is, of course, ignoring options such as survivor benefit for your spouse. So if you pass away early in retirement, you want to have that option. So a portion or all the annuity is being transferred to your spouse, and ignoring inflation option as well. Finally, buying without shopping. Not all annuities are equal. Not all life insurance companies will give you the same rate. So it's important to meet with several insurance agent or a broker to be able to compare different annuities and their rate. So if you like this format where you have a short description of the products, the pros, the cons, and the common mistakes, I've done that for 20 income-focused products for retirees. You can download the guide at Retirement Loop or click in the link description below. You're going to receive the 20 income focus guide over there. You're going to have like ratings, tax optimization, common mistakes, and even more. All right, so let's move on to the last one. This one is a bit counterintuitive, but this is how I intend to invest my money the day that I will not be able or not be interested in managing a portfolio of stocks. So I'm thinking about my spouse that has absolutely no interest and no financial knowledge. So I want to create something a little bit more simple, and I thought of looking into all-in-one ETFs. So all-in-one ETF, super simple. It's an ETF of ETFs. So it's a basket where you can select the one with the proper asset allocation, and it's being rebalanced for you. So it's professionally managed and you don't have to worry about anything. Among the pros, well, I like the fact that it's being managed by professionals. So you have kind of like the best of both worlds where you don't pay too much in fees, but at the same time, you can rely on the asset allocation, the sector allocation, and the stock selecting strategy that is being made by a professional. The second thing is it's super simple. You can invest in one all-in-one ETF and have access to 9,000 stocks or even 20,000 companies and bonds. It cannot be more simple than that. And on top of that, you have great diversification. Finally, what I like is the asset allocation can be changed when at every single step of your retirement. So you can start right now already with a all-in-one ETF that focus 100% or 80% into equities. And as you retire, you can slow down the growth a little bit and change the asset allocation to something a little bit more exposed to bonds. On the cons, well, the first one is it may underperform, especially if you want to invest in the S&P 500. Well, the all-in-one ETF will have a portion of that, but will also include a portion of the Canadian market, international market, and others. So you may have a little bit of underperformance here. The second thing is, unfortunately, not all-in-one ETF will focus on income. So they are made to make your life easy, but they're not necessarily exactly tailored for retirement. So having a cash reserve on the side could be a smart way to deal with an all-in-one ETF. Finally, you have limited customization. So yes, you can play around from one asset allocation to another, but if you would like to have like 50% or 30% in a specific market or a specific sector, it won't happen. So you will have to add other ETFs on top of this one, and therefore you're losing a bit of that simplicity of investing. So the common mistakes for all-in-one ETFs, well, the first one is thinking that you need more than one ETF. As I said, if you look at an ETF such as XEQT, I did a review on this channel before. We're going to put the link in the description below. This one will give you access to 9,000 holdings. If you go for bonds, you go up to 20,000 different types of holdings. So if you invest in another ETF on top of that or some stocks, chances are you're just duplicating what you already have and you create more complexity. The second mistake is to be a bit overconfident. Confident in the market when you assess your risk tolerance. We all know that when the market goes up, we all say that we can easily take a 20% drop without blinking. And when the market is crashing, well, then you don't want to take any more risk. You want to be on the safe side. So assessing your own risk tolerance could be a challenge. Finally, investing in the all-in-one and thinking that you're golden. As I said earlier, I think it's best to have a cash reserve to avoid having to sell the all-in-one ETF during a down market. So when you have a cash reserve that will supply short-term income, it's easier to manage when it's the right time to sell some of your ETF shares to replenish that cash reserve. So, all right, that's enough for today. I'm going to see you in the comment if you have any questions about income-focused products. Do not forget to download your 20 income products guide in the link description below. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to not miss my next video next Thursday. And until the next time, don't forget to stay invested.